Hey beautiful people, Ryan Hamer here. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, share, and comment and ask any questions. You guys normally do that anyway. Today we're actually going to be starting my Credit Commandment series. So each of these videos that are going to be coming out, we're going to be talking about a different credit commandment. And these are they're not like written in stone, but these are just sort of my postulates, my ideas about things that you need to be doing to ensure that you have, maintain, or regain great credit. Okay, so you can download the credit commandments, the full list. Some of you like to learn by reading, and some of you like to learn by watching my videos. So I'm including a link where you can download a PDF version of the credit commandments that I've put together. But I'm going to let you know that you're going to have to sign up for my mailing list as well to complete the download. So you're going to do me a special favor and just give me your name, your email address, and whatever, so we can communicate and you can get further information about credit. All right. So without further ado, the first credit commandment is do not ignore the emails, the calls, and the letters. Now, I used to say, like, don't ever respond to them or whatever, but you know what? The reason why you shouldn't ignore them, there are several reasons. And I'm going to put a big depends. It depends, because you have to look at the letter, and you have to look at the letter to see when was the alleged debt, right? Sometimes you get a letter in the mail that's for a debt that was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, sometimes even 20 years ago. And the reason why you don't ignore it is because you can get these people off your back, provided, the debt falls within some specific parameters. So the first one is this. What if it's past the statute of limitations? What if it's past the statute of limitations? Or what if it's not even you? What if the name on the actual debt is not even yours? What if it's the wrong address? What if somebody else took it out in your name? What if you're a victim of identity theft and you don't even know? You ignoring a call, you ignoring a letter or an email could result in your credit being prematurely damaged, not beyond repair, maybe beyond repair, who knows, right? So if you ignore and stick your head in the sand like, what do they call those animals? Storks, flamingos? Yeah, flamingos, right? You stick your head in the sand like a flamingo, it will be detrimental and it'll hurt you, hinder you. So my advice is you do not ignore those letters. Open up the letter, read it. The first thing you look for on that is you check, is your name spelled correctly? Is it actually you? Is it somebody else? Do you know the person that's listed if it's not yours, if it's not your name? If there's, could be a letter off, could be something completely, unrelated to you and you don't even have a clue. Maybe somebody took something out in your name. Right? So there are different varying factors that could come into play, which is why I say you don't ignore. Then what you might want to do is you may want to reach out to the offending party. There are certain things that you can do. You can simply say, look, communicate with me via writing. That way they have to communicate with you only in writing. And that way you're able to actually take the stuff, look at it, and do your own little investigation. And you can ask questions, and then they got to respond, etc., right? So do not call them. Do not contact a collection agency or whomever, or a creditor rather, and be angry. Don't fight them. Don't be ready to fight them. I get so many messages where people say, well, I did this and I did that, and I'm just cringing because you can't call them and be in a bad mood or be all defensive and stuff like that. It's just like cops, right? You can't act guilty. So also, I think I mentioned this in another video, but the reason why you want to take a look at the debt, you want to check to see the date of infraction, right? So if this debt is actually mine, tell me, like you want to see, are they providing the right information so that you know whether you actually owe and when this was. So if they're coming at you, as I said, if they're coming at you for a debt that's 10 years old, and you know within your local jurisdiction that forgive me if this video seems a little bit disjointed. There are a couple of interruptions that have occurred during the filming of this video, so I apologize. Anyhow, I believe we were talking about, we were talking about the statute of limitations, right? So what happens is, if, for example, the debt is 10 years ago and they're trying to get you to pay for the debt that's 10 years ago, legally, your legal obligation to that debt with regards to being taken to court and being compelled to pay that debt, it's over, right? So you can't be taken to court and be legally compelled to pay that debt if it has exceeded the statute of limitations with respect to your jurisdiction. So I say these in sort of generic terms so that depending on where you are and you're watching this video, you may have to double check within your area. So I'm in Ontario and it's 2 years. So those of you who are in Ontario, the jurisdiction is 2 years. That if the creditor has not taken you to court by then, they cannot come after you for that debt. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. Anything with regards to child support, if you've been convicted of like tax fraud and stuff like that, or if you owe taxes and stuff like that, then those are things that can help you. Oh, and student loans, yes. Yes, there was a cutoff year, and that is certainly done past. So you can't be, if you owe student loans, you owe student loans, and this stuff will follow you for life. You owe it. You took it. You signed it. Yeah, you can't get out of that. What people used to do back in the days, they used to declare bankruptcy and stuff like that. And that's how they get out of it. But yeah, there are certain things that you cannot run from. But that's why, as I said, and you wouldn't know this if you ignored the call, the email, and the letter. Now, what if it's past the statute of limitations? What do you do? Well, you contact the creditor, and you can say, yeah, it's me, whatever, and you can ask them, like, how did you get my information? What's this all about? I know nothing about this. I have no recollection. Yada yada yada. And then, they're the duty of, they'd have to prove that it is, they have to provide you with documentation to prove that it's you or what have you. And then you could simply say, well, you can ask the question, when is the date of last payment? What is the date of last payment for this particular debt? What's the year that you have on this debt? And as soon as they tell you, and it's past 2 years, like we're talking about, like say in Ontario, you can say, well, that debt is statute barred. You really shouldn't be coming after me. You really shouldn't be contacting me for statute barred debt. And then if they start to give you a hard time or what have you, then you say, let's communicate only in writing. I'm going to send you documentation so that you can only communicate with me in writing, and then you just go back and forth that way. And then they cannot come after you legally. They know that they are coming out. They're trying. They're hoping that you don't know your rights, and you don't know that statute barred debt is uncollectible. Okay, so that's one of the biggest. That's one of your biggest. I won't say get out of jail free cards, but it's one of your biggest assets in knowing that piece of regulation, within your jurisdiction. And I think that's about it for now. So I think I've talked ad nauseum regarding, why you want to take a look at your debt, especially when you're contacted. Okay? Don't let stuff pile up in your email box. Don't ignore it. Don't let the letters come and you ignore them. I mean, sometimes I understand it's really easy to just say, well, you know what, it's 10 years old, I'm not going to bother. But what they'll do is they'll do the rig around the rosy, and they will pass the debt. They will pass the same file to another collection agency that they may own. Or what they may do is they'll just sell it to somebody else. And you'll see they'll do the ring around the rosy, and it'll go from a different company. You'll notice that it's not from Acme Collections, it's from a different collection agency. You know what I mean? So it'll just go back and forth, or 6 months you don't hear from them. Then another 12 months you're going to get another email or another letter from this person or that person, somebody different. So, and what you need to do also is you need to check your credit report to see whether this debt is actually on your credit bureau report. Because sometimes these companies will just try and collect, right? Because they know that it's so far past the statute of limitations. It's actually, even if it was on your credit bureau report and it's dropped off your credit bureau report and wiped because it's past like 7 years or what have you, another company will come after you and try and collect on a debt that is not going to be displayed on your credit bureau report. However, it's still technically outstanding, but if you are, gullible enough and you don't know your rights, you might actually just say, oh, I don't want anybody calling me, I'm going to pay it off. And as soon as you pay it off, what they can do is they can put it back. They can put it back on your credit bureau report, or it might say paid or what have you, right? So you have to be really careful about how you handle these things. You don't want to, and when we say restart the clock, there's a term that we use in credit. It's called restarting the clock. So if something is already on your credit bureau report and you admit to owing that debt, so that's why I always say you never admit, never say yes, I owe it or what have you, because then that's like a confession. So what you do is, I have no recollection, certain type of verbiage that you use. I'm unaware of this debt. I'm unaware. I have no recollection of the alleged debt, but I'm willing to look to see why it's on my credit bureau report. I'd like to, I'd like to understand more about this or what have you. If it's on your credit bureau report, if it's not on your credit bureau report, don't admit to it. You can discuss it, but do not admit to owing any such debt. And sometimes they try to trick you. They try to pull you in. Like, remember when you got such and such and such and such? And then some people are like, yeah, well, that was so many years ago. I don't owe that anymore. No, you don't say that stuff. You don't say that. You let them talk. You listen. And then you ask questions. And once you hear past 2 years, past 7 years, then you know right away that you have to be very careful with regards to how you handle this situation. You can quickly switch it to, where do I send you documentation to continue this conversation in writing only? Because when you're communicating with them in writing only, they can't ask you questions that would incriminate you. And you might unintentionally incriminate yourself, obligating you to, X amount of years of torture or X amount of years of frustration, and it'll completely, bring down your credit score. All right. So, as I said, just to recap, don't ignore, don't admit, communicate. Also, check the date of last payment, check the years with regards to this specific debt, and also check your credit bureau to see if this debt that you are being communicated with is actually on your credit bureau report. So there's a reason why it's so important to not ignore, because if you ignore, you open the door. Like, if you ignore, you do open the door. So it's always better to be fully prepared rather than assuming that, you're covered because you think X amount of years have passed. You don't see it on your credit bureau report. Because some people, they either check the credit bureau report, don't see it, and then they don't panic, or they just ignore it completely. Just make sure that you have all your ducks in a row and you understand exactly where you stand. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave it in the comment. And again, check the link as to where you can download the credit commandments, and please watch the other videos. If you like this video, please share it with a friend and let other people know about it, okay? Thanks so much for taking the time to watch. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video, all right? See you on the other side. Ciao for now.